Hey guys, in this video we're going to be checking out the FXT T81 micro camera here. This is a little micro-sized CMOS camera, and this is not the standard 19 by 19 form factor that most of us are familiar with, like the Micro Arrow and the Micro Swift. So I'll bring in here, this is the Micro Predator here. This is the standard form factor 19 by 19 size, but if you put the Venus here next to that, you can see it's quite a bit smaller. If we get some measurements here, we can see that the board is actually 16 millimeters by 16 millimeters. Let's just double check that. It's about 16 millimeters in both directions. And then the amount of space for the mounting hole is about 15.9 millimeters. And the camera comes in at about 4.3 grams. So the style of connector here on the back is similar to the ones that are on the other micro cameras. In fact, I believe it's the exact same pinout and cable that's on the Foxtier Micro Arrow. Just double checked it, and yes, this is the cable for the Foxtier Micro Arrow. It's the same size, and the pinouts are in the exact same order, so that cable will work. And I'm pretty sure that the joystick will work. Now, this Venus camera does come with its own joystick here. It's a little bit smaller, and this does come with an extra little plastic case there, and another little extra locking ring for the lens. And of course it does come with its own set of cables as well. It does come with a mounting bracket as well. This is obviously for this camera only and not for the larger 19 by 19 cameras. So taking another look at the connector here, 5 to 36 volt voltage range, so pretty wide voltage range. You have ground, video, the OSD, and then the power is obviously going to be for the battery or voltage sensor, and there's a line for that, just like there is for the Foxtier Micro Arrow. So here's a look at the specs here. It's a CMOS sensor, does NTSC and PAL switching, and it also has wide dynamic range, and also switches the aspect ratio as well, 16:9 and 4:3 switchable as well. So I believe this has all the same features as the T80 camera. So here's a look at the T80 camera on the right here. Obviously there's no connector here, all the wires are directly soldered on. But it looks like it's got the same lens. But the lens is not, the focus is not fixable or adjustable on the T80. Now, I don't know what the board looks like on this one, but it looks like it's about the same size board, maybe a little bit bigger. Obviously, again, wires are directly soldered on. You have a connector on the Venus instead of this one, and you have these like two tabs on the side of the 80 for mounting. No screw holes on the side. We have screw holes on the side of the little case here for the 81. Okay, so I got the camera plugged in here. I'm using the actually the Foxtier Micro Arrow cable and OSD controller, so this setup does appear to be working just fine. You can see the image here. It's got a timer and a voltage reading on the screen, and it looks like the same one that's on the T80, so it might be the same firmware. Just quickly check the field of view here off to my left, and it looks like it's about what they're advertising. They're saying about 130 degree field of view, pretty good field of view vertically, and pretty good field of view horizontally. I believe it's in the default 16 by 9 aspect ratio, which I think is the native native aspect ratio for this camera. Okay, so I put the lens cap on here so we can take a look at the menu settings, and these are looks like the same settings that are on the T80 camera. This is for changing the on-screen display, timer, power, and you can change the position. This looks the same. Exposure value, that also looks the same, and it's the same default value as well. You have day night, that's also the same. So this looks all exactly the same here. Color gain, that's also the same default value. So I expect the image probably to be image quality to be about the same. And here in the function setup here, we can change our NTSC PAL or aspect ratio 16:9:4:3, and we'll leave all that the same. And go ahead and exit here. So yeah, that looks like this might be the same firmware and sensor that's on the T80. Okay, so you're probably asking yourself, this is an unusual form factor and not a lot of frames are going to fit this. You might be able to fit something if you use some washers on the side here and to the standard size frames. I'm going to explore that. But this might fit into certain applications where a smaller camera might do better than a larger one. Then you still have the options of the connector, the settings to change with the OSD joystick, etc. So this might be a good option if you're looking for a little bit smaller camera on a frame that doesn't necessarily fit the 19x19 size. So I might actually put this into the Leader 120. That actually was a frame that didn't fit 19x19 cameras too well. It was really tight and you couldn't really adjust the angle, so this might be a better fit for that. And something like, you know, a frame that was made for an all-in-one camera might be better for something like this. So I'll look into those options, and if I come up with something interesting, I'll make another video for that. But at this point, I'll just go ahead and I'll show you some flight footage from the camera so you guys can see what the image quality is like for this camera. Okay, so for the most part, the image quality of the T81 does appear to be very similar to the T80. However, the focus is a little bit sharper on the T81. It's probably because this lens is focused better, and on the T80 sample that I have, the lens is glued on, and I think that it was possibly a little bit out of focus when they set the focus at the factory, so that could be a difference in the image quality in terms of the focus. Now, the one thing about the T81 here that I'm noticing is a little bit different is the way the exposure handling is done, especially when going from light to dark areas. And then when I go into these trees and I go into a darker area, the brighter areas off in the distance get totally blown out, and then you get these flashes on the screen in the image, and that is a little bit annoying. I didn't really notice it as much in the goggles as it is in the DVR footage. It didn't really bother me as much in terms of flying, but obviously playing it back here and recording, it's quite actually quite distracting. And I don't remember the T80 doing this, so obviously I think the sensor is different, and or they did something to the firmware. So if you don't happen to like the behavior of that, going from transitioning from light to dark and having the flashes on your image, that probably is not the camera for you if that's the case. But otherwise, I think the image is pretty sharp and pretty good details. Just don't like the light to dark light handling here. It's just not for me. But otherwise, I find the camera to be pretty decent. Anyways, that's going to do it for this quick review. Let me know if you guys have any questions. I'll put a link in the description if you guys are interested in this camera, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video.